In the last part, I've shown how to write a custom attribute with options binding. Now we're going to see a different variation of that. It's called the dynamic options binding. You'll use this when you don't know the name of the bindable properties. So I'm going to create another um, attribute, and I want to call this dynamic style. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'll open up Visual Studio Code, and we will take a look at the source code here. The to implement the dynamic options, I'm going to import the dynamic options attribute from Aurelia framework, and then we need to decorate our custom attribute with dynamic attributes, dynamic options, and then we won't be able to use the value change. Instead, we will use a method called property changed, and the first argument is going to be the name of the property. Because we don't know the name, the Aurelia framework will pass the name of the property, and that's going to be a string. And since our new value and old value are always going to be string, I'm going to just type annotate that as well. Okay, so in here, what I want to do is I want to do a switch case of all possible properties that I could think of that might come as bindable properties. So I'm going to copy and paste the code that I already wrote. And as you can see, there's nothing special about case, color, and style. But I have a default where I'm going to take the name as it is, and then I'm going to stick it into the style property. So this name has to be a valid JavaScript property of style. For example, if it's going to be font weight, it is going to be font with an uppercase W weight. So let me save this dynamic style custom attribute, and then we'll go into app.html and we will require that now. So I'm going to copy this and then change the name to dynamic dash style. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind them into new properties, which I'm going to declare in app.ts, and I will copy and paste them because I've already prepared the styles. So I want to add two more properties called style and weight for odd items. Similarly, I want a style and weight for even items as well. And I'll be using these properties inside my binding expression. So I'm going to go back into the app.html, and in here I'm going to add the additional properties. We've added a style property, so I'm going to style.bind colon, and the name of the item is odd item style. And the fourth property, it's going to be a dynamic property. So I'm going to just call it font weight. If you remember, it has to match the JavaScript property. So I'm going to say font weight colon dot bind colon, and then I'm going to give the value as the odd item weight, which is what I've defined inside my app.ts. I'm going to just copy and paste that and change the odd to even. So it's going to be even item style for this bind property, and the other one is also going to be even item weight. We haven't changed the name of the attribute. That is the problem. So yep, they are still case dash color, so it has to be dynamic dash style. There we go. Dynamic dash style. Similarly, we want to use the same attribute, custom attribute for the even numbered items as well. Now, when you save it, it'll pick up the change and it'll hit the breakpoint. Yep. So as you can see, the name happens to be font weight, and I'm using the index annotation. In JavaScript, you can use period property name, or you can use a square bracket, and then you can use the name of the property. Both are valid syntaxes in JavaScript. Oh, there you go. So now we have a bold, italic, red for the odd numbered items. Let me add a few more items, and you can see that that's going to be taking the style and the weight that we gave in our application. So let me add one more, and that'll become bold, italic. So that is how we leverage the dynamic options binding with a custom attribute. Before we end this part, I just want to show one last trick. If you go back into the Visual Studio Code, it's kind of annoying to do the require every single time. For example, we have to give require from the name of the attribute. For example, if you add binding behaviors or elements or value converters, it becomes overwhelming to see or to even type the require tag, or the number of require tags in the view will be overwhelming. So there is a way you could do, you could avoid using the require tag by declaring them as global resources. So if you go into the index.ts under resources, you have this config.global resources call, and all you need to do is, it's an array property. You need to define the path of the resources. For example, attribute is resource. So it is going to be inside of the attributes folder. Since index.ts and attributes are at the same level, we need to just say attributes, and then the name of the attribute. It's going to be case, and we have a few more. I'm going to just copy and paste this so to save some time. And I'm going to just give this case dash color. Then this one will be dynamic. We'll call this uppercase. And then the last one we'll call as dynamic dash style. So now we've included all of those attributes as global resources, and now you no longer have to use this require from. You can delete them from the app.html. So I'm going to delete that, and let me do a save all, and now it's going to pick up these changes, and your application will still behave the same way. Okay, so now you no longer need to use the require because we've defined all of our custom attributes as part of the global resources. So let me add a couple of tests just to validate that everything works normally. So everything works.